Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Deidre with Are You a CPS Victim Like Me? I do have a guest that is joining me this evening, so I'm excited about that because if anybody that has watched my show before, it is definitely a challenge to get guests not only to say that they want to come on the show, but then to follow through. I guess it's that extra piece of the puzzle. But here we are now with a guest, so I'm excited for you to hear her story. But for anybody that is new to watching my show this evening, I do this show under an attorney that practices out of Southern California, and his name is Mr. Vincent W. Davis. He's a CPS juvenile trial defense attorney that's been practicing for nearly almost 40 years now. And I myself came in contact with CPS about a little over 5 years ago now, and went along with my case plan like most other parents do. And 75% of the way through, I kind of found out what CPS is really all about, unfortunately, and the corruption that is entailed. And that's when I came across Mr. Davis. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't even know the knowledge that I know today. But like most people also know, you find out that information a little too late in some instances. So I am currently in the process of fighting to get my two older boys back. But unfortunately, my youngest that wasn't born when this opened, I lost to adoption. So I do this show pretty much to help get the word out there to any other parents that might be or could be, or you never know, in the future get in contact with CPS to hopefully not only know your rights beforehand, but kind of know the process of what you're about to be up against. Because like I said, most people that have been in the system or know someone that has, it isn't what we all think that it is or should be as far as protecting children. In my mind, it's quite opposite, the exact opposite. So I won't take too much more time away from our guests, but anybody in the future that wants to come on my show, I do these every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, and I have missed the last few weeks, I believe. But to my defense, I do have guests scheduled, but for some reason, last minute, either scheduling conflict arises, or maybe they just get cold feet, because we all know that this is also a very you know delicate, I guess, kind of subject. If you're still going through your case, you're afraid of retaliation, or if your case is closed and you lost your kids, I mean, it brings up all kinds of emotions. And so sometimes people they really want to do it, but then they just kind of, for some reason, don't follow through. So here we are. And next Wednesday, hopefully I'll have another guest lined up. And if you ever want to be a guest, you can call the number on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, the 888 number, and my producer will get you set up for one of my upcoming shows. So other than that, I will introduce you to our guest this evening. She is also a attorney that practices in West Virginia, I believe. And she doesn't really have any CPS cases personally, but she's going to dive into maybe the legal aspect of it all. And if anybody is watching live that might want to ask questions or comments, she is actually an attorney, where I'm just, doing this for educational purposes only. I am not an attorney, but I'm speaking from, past experiences of going through it. So if you want to go ahead and take the floor, Tanisha, and introduce yourself, and then wherever you'd like to start with what you want to talk about.
Sure. My name is Tanisha Klein. I am an abuse and neglect attorney in West Virginia. I am a private attorney that accepts court-appointed cases. That's a little bit different than the public defender corporation. I elect and choose to take these appointments. I've been doing it for about 9 years. I became very passionate about it about 5 years ago, post-COVID. I saw a need in this area of law, and I enjoy it. I enjoy this area of law. It is very stressful, and it's really hard to see some of the things that I do have to see daily, but I'm optimistic that this area of law can change and that reform can come. And I'm dedicated to helping that happen. So I don't really
I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about something that we talked about off camera the other day, when, most parents that are going through a CPS case and they can't afford their own private, attorney, they get what they call a court-appointed attorney, and that's kind of like what you said you do. But in most cases, especially here in California, we like to call them, court pretenders or whatnot, because we feel like they're for the state or for the system and not for the parent. But you were kind of like one of those, what I consider a rarity or very few to find, where I really feel like the corruption might not be as bad in your area, to where when you are explaining the way that you do your cases and the way that you treat them, I number one kind of stopped you and was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, so you're not really one of them. And you're like, well, no, it's not like that here. Like you get to actually fight for the parent and not feel like you're
Yes.
fighting against all the people in the courtroom. So when we were talking about that, it kind of just really made me think like, so it's not necessarily all over the world, but when I do come across someone like you, it's kind of almost like, I think maybe more rare for you to hear what's really going on outside of like your familiar area.
Yeah, that's something that's interesting about this area of laws. It is very different in every jurisdiction, even
Mhm,
with each state. Every county handles things a little bit different. So, some of the things you were mentioning, yeah, I'm very unfamiliar with.
mhm,
Here, CPS workers, CPS in general is government funded. No one is receiving bonuses for anything. They do participate in the 4E federal reimbursement, but
mhm,
rest assured they spend more money than they get reimbursed. There's so many loopholes that they have to jump through in order to get that federal reimbursement. Um, so I don't believe so here specifically. It's not perfect. Believe me, it's
mhm.
not. I have seen corruption. I
But
have
didn't you
seen.
say that you really feel like the caseworkers, for the most part, are really pushing for reunification and
100.
doing like how they should be in most cases, especially if they're getting the federal funding, which is meant to be for reunification services, you know what I mean? And yet, like where I'm from, Orange County, California, I mean, I just read in the news, speaking of that today, an article was posted by Richard Luthman, the journalist. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but saying that 6 judges in Orange County, California, the court that I'm involved with, were sent a petition for recall. Does that make sense how I'm saying it?
Were they asked to recuse themselves from a
Well, the way
case?
that the thing was written was, 6 judges in Orange County just got notified today something about a recall. Does recall mean that they immediately get taken off of the bench, like they're not allowed to practice anymore? Or I'm not sure what recall means. I guess I'd have to look up the article, but
Yeah,
um,
I'm unsure what the verbiage means in California. It could mean a recusal, meaning a judge
mhm,
moves himself voluntarily, steps down from presiding over a case. You could be talking about maybe something was remanded from your Supreme Court back to that judge, a ruling or a finding they made in a case was remanded
mhm.
back by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it was
Eventually,
it was kind of written like as if like these 6 judges were given notice today, December 17th, of this, I think, recall or whatever it was, to where then they went on to say because of all of the, you know, negative things that they listed that has been, I don't know, proven or brought forward or whatnot, but then they went on to name the actual 6 judges that, this affected today. So I was kind of like, ooh, anybody that's been following my case per se, I don't like to speak about it that much because we all know why, retaliation or whatnot, or I don't like to wish for something before it ever happens. I like to be the one to speak after it, because I don't want to curse it, but I have court tomorrow. And so I kind of texted my attorney today that article that I saw, and I'm like, man, why couldn't my attorney be one of them, but not like that probably would have mattered if they would have just continued on. But um yeah, no, so I was just, well, maybe we could talk a little bit now about remember I mentioned to you that I was like, oh, you're a member of the Family Fraud Court Warrior Project with Dave Weigel. And then you were like, yeah, I am, but I don't really know much about it. And so I
yeah,
kind of was telling you that side of it. And did you get a chance to watch the episode where I had him on, or you didn't get a chance
I
to?
did. I
Oh,
did.
you
I did.
did. Okay, well then you want to tell me what you think after you watched it to see like kind of your thoughts on it?
More power to it.
Yeah.
I do not practice family law. I have on occasion. It
Mhm.
is not my thing. I can I can say my area is definitely solely abuse and neglect. I love abuse and
Yeah.
neglect. Um, I can say there's not very much judge corruption in. I practice in 2 counties in my state, Raleigh County and
Uh-huh.
Mercer. I have not personally witnessed corruption at a judge level in any of my
Wow.
cases. What I have witnessed, what I have witnessed is when I say I've seen corruption, I've witnessed lies portrayed to the court, by
What
a
about in the actual very beginning, like
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
children are removed? Like, are they doing it the proper way, like with the warrant, or and a warrant meaning wet ink signed by the judge and done all the proper ways, or are you seeing a little bit of corruption in the immediate like removal and starting of a case, or not really?
Right. That is what I've identified to be one of the bigger issues in my state is they do not need a warrant to remove the child in my state as the
No
legislation
way.
as the statute is written right now. Um,
Whoa. I never
and
knew that there was anywhere that didn't
yeah,
mandate a warrant.
all they
Hmm.
need, they can get a petition signed by a judge after the taking. All they need in the petition is allegations that amount to imminent danger
Mhm.
to the child.
Wow.
And the judge signs off. Now, at the preliminary stage, you don't really respondents don't get an opportunity to truly contest the validity of those statements so much. That usually happens at the second of the three major hearings
Now, is
procedurally.
that the detention hearing, or is it different in every jurisdiction as well?
I think that's
I know there's
different.
like an adjudication one,
Yeah,
detention one, and then another one, but I know one of them is like, I think what you're going to talk about is like the main one, where if you kind of don't kind of fight it there, then it's kind of going to be stuck with you for the remainder of the whole case, so to speak, as far as your allegations.
nothing really happens so much at the preliminary hearing. Sometimes you can get a case dismissed at the preliminary hearing. It's few and far between.
Yeah.
Um, Essentially, if a judge rules that the taking wasn't proper, he's essentially saying I signed off on something wrong. So
True.
it's the way it's set up. So that doesn't
They're never
happen.
going to tell themselves that they were wrong.
Some,
Right?
some will, some will.
You've seen it
Uh,
happen?
when I talk about corruption or things that are broken that need fixed, um, I'm mostly am talking about false statements in petitions. I
Mhm.
think a lot of things take place in the relationship between a respondent parent and a initial intake worker, and it establishes a hostile relationship that everyone that gets involved in the case thereafter has to work to repair. Um,
Yeah.
because an ongoing worker here in my state, the intake worker only investigates the allegation and files a petition. And then when the case moves to adjudication, an ongoing worker takes the case. So often what I see is the ongoing worker is cleaning up messes that the intake worker may have left for them.
And these
Well,
intake workers seem to just be removing kids like it's no big deal. And oh, yeah, they look like they need to have them removed. And if they didn't, oh, well, not
it,
realizing the
right.
severity of what they're doing.
It's a little bit of both, just like with anything else. It's on the individual. They have a lot of discretion in the taking, honestly, here in our state.
Mhm.
Uh, I have seen fantastic workers and I have seen bad workers, workers that retaliate against parents trying to assert rights. Naturally, this whole situation is a parent's going to be very guarded.
Mhm.
Nobody wants anyone coming into their home and taking their child. That, I
Yeah.
mean, I can't imagine being in that position. I would want to kill someone, you know? So,
Literally.
yeah. So, often I feel like DHHR, CPS particularly, there's a high turnaround rate in those jobs. It's extremely stressful. They're overworked. They are underpaid. Um, and they're getting cussed at every day. I mean, nobody's happy to see them. Come on, you know?
No, yeah, no.
Nobody just says, "Oh, yay, a CPS worker. You come on
And then
in."
I feel like obviously there's no real incentive for these, court appointed attorneys to really like put their neck out for these parents because number one, they're not going to get a different pay raise. They're going to still get paid the same amount. And number two, like you said, they're mostly all overworked. And it's like, why are they going to give so much attention to one case and not the other when they're all equally given to them? You know what I mean? But at the same time, do you see a lot of cases where, for instance, children are removed and the biological parents are trying to get them placed, with friends or family, and you see like the system or the social workers deliberately kind of either delay that process or deny it for some bogus reason, just so that they can purposely place the children in foster care?
Yes. Not, I would say not often, not often, but I have. I've done this for 9 years. Um, and again, it goes back to the individual. There are some intake workers that are extremely reasonable. They understand the nature of the situation that they're in. They understand the parents are guarded and defensive, and they don't file petitions to open a case in court out of retaliation for a parent expressing that hostility or expressing that defensiveness. Um, that is one of the things that really upsets me when I see it. I get really upset when I see that an intake worker has just filed an open court case because they can, not
Yeah.
because imminent danger existed. So, but again, it's just like anything else. There are good and there are bad. I'm very blessed right now to be surrounded by a fantastic group of ongoing workers in Mercer County, specifically. There are very few that, that I hate to look down and see their name on a pleading. I have experienced things to become more reasonable in the last few years. I don't know what accounts for that change. I'd like to think that attorneys fighting a little harder may have something to
Or
do
maybe
with it.
just kind of like back to what I was saying about Dave Weigel, for anybody watching that isn't familiar about what he's doing. He's Wall Street fiduciary that went through a family court case himself for over 14 years. His was like about divorce and stuff, but his kids basically being, used as pawns and taken from him and stuff. And finally he was successful, recently, about a year and a half ago, I believe. But he was the type that said, I know too much about all of this corruption and I can't just take my ball and go home. And people would listen to me, he said. And so that's exactly what he did. He created this Facebook page that isn't a typical Facebook page like most people would think. He's using it as an actual public ledger, and he has opened up a 501c with it. He has actually, I forget the legal term for it, but like the purpose of what his Facebook page is, to where basically like people can't come and just shut him down, because he does this for a living. He has his own business, for what he does on Wall Street, as far as, the fraud side of any and all kind of monies involved with anything. And that goes with CPS, all the fraudulent things that they're doing every day, and basically, kidnapping your kids, finding these foster parents. Like, for instance, in my situation, my youngest, got placed into a foster home that wasn't born when my case first opened. But I feel like they had their eyes on the prize with that, knowing I was about to give birth and I had an open case now, that they get to take the baby straight from the hospital. And the other corrupt part of my story is my mother had my two older boys that were only 5 and 6 at the time, but you would think that she would try and save my youngest. But still to this day, she doesn't even acknowledge that he's alive, or that it's her grandson out there. She literally dropped me off at the hospital when I was about to give birth and said, basically at the little turnaround too, mind you. And she worked at the hospital, so it was even more weird. I thought she was going to at least come in with me, but no, she drops me off at the little turnstile at the ER and goes, I hope you make the right decision and give this baby up for adoption, because look at the situation you're already in right now. And mind you, this is my mother that, raised as Catholic, went to all girls Catholic high school. It constantly tells me that she's trying to raise my boys to be good, trustworthy Catholic boys, and on and on and on. But yet she's telling me to basically give up on my third child because of the situation that I'm dealing with at hand, instead of trying to be the mother that she's trying to act towards, me and my kids. And not just, she used to tell my kids, because we would have visits, with all three of them, like once a week. And she started to say things to the kids like, they don't need to be seeing him. He's going to be adopted and be raised in a good family. And there's no reason for them to still be seeing him. And I'm just like so blown away, thinking, not only is this my mother, but the things that she's saying. And then like the very first person that my son was placed in was like an emergency intake until they find, foster placement or whatever. And she was so sweet, but she only had him for a month, but she made a little like photo book of like all these little pictures of him, and made one for me, made one for my older son and my middle son. And so when I gave them to the kids, they thought that was the coolest thing ever. And they brought it home to my mom's house, and my mom like made it. I don't know if she necessarily took it away for them, but she made it so that like, I think if they pulled it out to look at it, she like wanted like nothing to do with it, just always very negative. And that's how she's been throughout all of this. I mean, I basically lost what little family I had, and, still believe that this system, is doing the right things. And, she likes to say, if you didn't get your kids back by now, well, then you still must not have been doing something right. I mean, goes on and on and on. Even like currently, I hired this attorney that wasn't cheap, and, because I wanted to try and get the best of the best, because I know how corrupted the system is. And she gets notice of it, that I'm trying to get my kids back, because she also told me numerous times throughout the last 5 years that, this has been a nightmare to her life, and my kids have, almost broken up her marriage that she's already not happy with. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but the point of the story is here I'm trying to get them back, paid all this money for an attorney, have everything all set up like I always have, like, stability, income, all that. And she's still making it difficult for me now. She made sure that she got appointed an attorney through the county. She's like, they wrote all the stuff that she's basically saying. And the main reason is because she's upset that I'm still with my husband, the father of my kids. I don't know if it's a racist thing because, so many years into throughout our 16-year relationship, she's really liked him and then she's really hated him. I mean, it goes up and down, but, she'll pull the race card when it's convenient for her. But I guess the moral of the story is, she's on her, third unhappy marriage and maybe doesn't want to see her daughter be in a successful marriage. I don't know what, but to think that she wouldn't be supportive in trying to get me to have my kids back home, to where I felt like I would be doing her a favor. But then again, this is the other sad part, is that we all know that the money incentive is there. And, the amount of money that she's gotten every month for these kids that she usually uses basically nothing on them for, will obviously be cut off if I get my kids back home, so I don't know. It's just hard because the kids are what we're all supposed to be doing this for, protecting the children. And if somebody really saw the day-to-day trauma, I mean, another example, and I always hate to have these episodes be about me, but I figure why not, because I have court tomorrow and it's on my mind heavily. But, the second she found out that I filed this motion a couple months ago, she cut off visitation completely. So in a couple days, it will have now been 3 months since I saw them last. Wow. And I was seeing them every month, if not twice a month. And that's me going out of state because she, lived in California. But when our case closed, she specifically had the judge give her permission to be able to move to Vegas because that's where she was going to be retiring and, had already bought in her house. So again, her retirement had to be put on hold while my case was open. Another thing that I ruined in her life. But no, then she moved to Vegas. And so I've been the one to do all the transporting, get an Airbnb every time, get a rental car. All like during the summertime, we had season water park passes to the 2 water parks. I mean, anything and everything my kids need and want, I'm of course always buying for them because it's my kids. And they're at that age where they're like into the, the Jordans for shoes. And I'm like, oh, 200 and something for a pair of shoes. Okay. But it's like, that's what you expect when you have kids. But yet to know that my mom's getting this amount of money and not using it for my kids or doing evil things, like she'll see that I bought them another pair of shoes maybe. And she'll literally text me and say, they do not need any more shoes. They already have enough. And, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you care if I buy them another pair of shoes? Just things like that where my kids have to deal with. And the bad mouth talking, how you always hear about the parent alienation between the mom and the dad? Well, can you imagine it's between basically a grandma and a mom? I mean, they hear all the time about my mom just speak so poorly of me. And then if you look at it from the kid's point of view, what are they supposed to really do? They didn't get to they didn't get to choose their mom or dad, but I don't even know where I went off on this tangent, but I think I was just kind of thinking lively of what is going on because all the holidays have now, this is the first Halloween we missed, the first Thanksgiving, and now Christmas. And it's like, oh my gosh, here I spent all this money on an attorney, finally filed the motion, and what does it immediately do to me and my kids? It makes us feel like we've now gone backwards because they haven't seen me now. Oh, and we're not allowed to be talking. I mean, it's just the mindset of these people that are in charge of running this whole program or corruption, I like to call it. I mean, granted, that's why I was kind of so interested in having you share stuff because I feel like the things I'm saying to you, by your reaction, you're kind of like a little like shocked because it's not that bad where you are. But I mean, I feel like I could talk for days
No,
But I do
I'm
have a
familiar
question.
with that scenario that you talked
Yeah.
about, a grandparent. That's another. I don't want to say it's a pet peeve. It's fantastic when grandparents can step up when they're needed. Um,
Yeah.
it's a whole different scenario when grandparents retain an attorney from the onset and fight the parent for their own child the entire case. I don't like that. Um, I find that distasteful.
Yeah.
Uh, of course, I have the utmost respect for grandparents that step up when they're needed
I mean,
and
I
are,
do, I do like the fact that my kids are with my mom because I would
of course,
rather them be with her than complete strangers.
but you're
But
already fighting an entire broken system to
yeah,
get back. You don't need to fight her too. And
exactly. And I don't need my kids to witness their grandma talking and treating. Do you know what my, just real quick, and then I want to ask you a question. So remind me, my oldest that just turned 13 in August, about, I would say a year ago now, or maybe a little more than a year, I don't know. But one time he just out of the blue, and he was dead serious, mind you, but I thought it was kind of funny in the beginning until I really thought about what he asked me. He goes, Mom, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. And he's like, no, it's okay. I don't want to make you upset. And I was like, what do I always tell you guys? I don't care what it is, what you do, whatever. I'd rather you just tell me or ask me or whatever. And then we deal with it, then it'd be harder or worse in the end because I didn't know. And so he goes, okay, well, I'm going to ask you, but I don't want you to be upset. And I said, okay. He goes, do you think grandma is really your mom? And at first I was like thinking it wasn't as serious as what I really know now what he was meaning. And I'm like, what do you mean she's not my mom? Or you don't think she's my mom? And he goes, no, but mom, and I'm like, well, why do you say that? And he starts listing all the reasons why he's starting to believe that there's no way that she could be my mom based off of how he sees her, quote unquote, treat me and talk about me. And that just like literally made me like stop in my tracks because as it's going on and giving me examples about like, well, then she says this about you, and then she does this, and then, I see her do this, or like, and it's all just horrible, really, it is. The things she said to me. At even one point, I tried to write this big long apology letter, trying to basically say, okay, I accept that I messed up. I accept that you stepped up and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't want to not have a relationship with you. And hopefully, you're still my mother. I still love you. And she gave me the nastiest reply, basically making me feel like, why did I even reach out? But I mean, that kind of thing. But no, he was trying to basically say, I don't think that I could really be her daughter if this is the way he's seeing her treat me, because he was comparing it to the way I treat them as far as I'm their mother. And I always tell them, I'm like, even as extreme as it sounds, I mean, God forbid, kill somebody one day and maybe not even do it intentionally, or God forbid you did it intentionally. There wouldn't be a day in my life that I would not still probably visit you in prison or call you or tell you that I loved you. Because no matter what, you're still and will always be my child. And that's another thing that blows me away when I see some of these parents or cases where I just, number one, either can't imagine the situation that they put their kids in to begin with, or, flip side, they get their kids taken and they almost just kind of give up. And I
oh,
just,
well, yeah, but I mean, once you see it, once you've been through it enough, you understand why they do. They're
true,
fighting almost an impossible fight, and
but that's how I feel. And I just can't give up. I mean, I haven't even given up on my youngest, which has technically already been adopted. And they changed his last name, even on his birth certificate, and moved clear across, the states. But they are still making an effort to make it seem like they want to have us be involved, but very catered to them, of course. But still, I hope and wish and pray that there still might even be a chance that he's not going to be gone for forever. So I just don't see, I mean, I guess I see, but to know the way I feel about my children and being a mother, it just, really makes me second think a lot of things in this system. For instance, my mom is what I was saying. I don't know how she could have just, number one, completely like disowned me, you might as well say. I mean, it happened. They got taken in August of 2020. And then that Thanksgiving was basically the last time that I was with my family as a family member. Ever since then, you might as well say I've never really talked to my mom or been in the presence of my mom,
well,
nor the rest of my family.
sometimes I think these cases set up a situation where someone is ostracized. Often a parent is ostracized from everyone because the
Because
kids are
nobody believes that this is really what's
well.
going on in CPS, I think.
Because the kids are used as a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
CPS will say you can't have that familiar relationship with that person anymore because they're now labeled bad. And you won't be able to care for the children or be a part of the children's lives if you continue to associate with that person. And I don't mean true, dangerous people to the child. I mean,
In the corrupted kind of way, they don't want to go with their
exactly.
narrative.
Right.
And I think that's why my mom got to keep my kids, to be honest with you. If she would have been that typical mother to me, helping me do anything I could to get my kids back, supporting me, I almost feel like they would have found a reason to take my kids from her and put them in a foster setting so that they can manipulate the way they wanted it to play out, if that makes sense. But
I
because my
mean,
mom was already acting like one of their teammates, then that's why I think she got to keep them, weirdly enough. And,
yeah.
but real quick, I want to ask this question before I forget. And how come this always rings a bell? Like, for instance, I lost my rights to my youngest for, the original allegation for me was failure to protect. And my husband was, I don't even remember, typical abuse charge, I think, or something. And how come technically the parents are never criminally charged, but they're losing their parental rights for quote unquote abuse?
Yeah,
Wouldn't that
well,
think that would be a hand in hand thing?
sometimes it is, but I think the biggest misnomer about that is that there are two completely different burdens of proof. When you're dealing with a criminal, you're dealing with a burden of proof that is beyond a reasonable doubt. Whereas here in West Virginia, abuse and neglect cases are quasi civil matters, and the burden of proof on the state would be clear and convincing evidence that abuse
I
and
see.
so it's two different burdens of proof, and some of the rules of evidence don't
Yeah.
apply in abuse and neglect cases here in my state. So, like your Fifth Amendment right, you can't remain silent in an abuse and neglect case here. It is held against you. Like
Mm.
if so, that's something that's different. Hearsay's let in all the time.
For
That's
both
something.
the parent and like CPS side? Oh,
Yes.
see, no, here, like for instance, us as parents, we're not allowed to use hearsay, but social workers can.
Oh, well,
Yeah. I mean,
no, ma'am.
you literally caught you to not even have a word. I mean, it's a whole different world, I'm telling you.
No, ma'am.
It is really, unfortunately, like, that's why I do these shows. I mean, I know I'm very like, um, not consistent, as I explained in the beginning. But when I get myself going with somebody, no matter if it's another parent or whatever, it just gets me so fired up because it's so typical that unless you have become involved with CPS through a case of your own or seeing somebody close to you that went through it, you truly are so naive to what is really going on around you in most of the world. And it's just so like eye-opening to really not want to believe that this is what's happening to not only you or somebody but it's really happening like every day all over the world. And nobody really seems to be doing anything about it until the only success I've really seen actually is what Dave is doing. He just talked about his 26th success story the other day about, his project and what it's doing for families, because these judges and these attorneys and all these corrupted people, they don't want it to be blasted and be, put on what he calls this wall of shame that is going to be permanent record and will be there forever and ever and ever. And, you're going to be listed on this wall of shame if you're one of them. And they hear that you're a member of this project by simply being a member from his Facebook page. And 26 case now in the last, year and a half that he's opened this project, has been a success, where this parent walked in the other day. Don't quote me on this. I don't know exactly the way it went, but you could see it on the page. Walked into the courtroom and the judge said, so-and-so, who's this Dave Weigel? And he said, he's the founder of the Family Fraud Warrior Project, and I'm a member. And next thing you know, he closed the case and kids were returned immediately.
Yeah,
Because they don't want their corruption to be on the public,
right.
And,
Well, I mean, that's human nature, I would imagine, Nobody,
I mean, there's
nobody.
just so many things that is set up for to fail. Why can't you record? In California, it's a two-person party consent, but in the courtrooms or the social workers, why can't you record your meeting with your social worker? Like, what do they have to hide? Or why can't court be recorded? What do they have to hide?
I think that now, as far as court goes, right? I don't
Hmm.
believe that I know here in our state, there's not. Now, family court in our state is recorded. There's
Oh,
video
wow.
of every
Wow.
hearing that all
That's how it
family
should be, I feel like.
CPS, like abuse neglect cases, are not. Those are sealed, closed cases, and that is more to protect the juvenile, not to hide, you know, shady stuff.
Hmm.
So I do not. One of the things that I wanted to get out there, something that bothers me that I've been reading like on the groups over and over, is people are having problems with their court appointed attorneys, right?
Hmm.
And I promise you, I wish I had $1 for every time that somebody has looked at me and said, "I'm going to hire a real lawyer." I would be a rich woman. I
Hmm.
don't know what they think we are. We are real lawyers, and we're really being cussed at every day while we're trying to help them. So um, let me give you a summary, like, of what it's like practicing abuse and neglect in my state specifically. Okay,
Yes.
there is a beautiful set of rules written down somewhere, procedural rules. They're beautiful to look at. Nobody follows a damn one of them. Okay. So you can read them. You can read them till the cows come home. Be my
Hmm.
guest. Fall asleep reading them.
Hmm.
But don't come to me and try to get me to make everybody else follow those, because I already know they're not going to. And you can either listen to what I'm telling you based upon my 9 years of doing these day in, day out, or you can keep telling me to do this, that, and the other, and you're never going to see your kid again. Like,
Hmm.
that's what upsets people most often, because they want these things to follow common sense and logic, and they don't. And they want them to follow the written rules that are written down somewhere. And when I try to explain that they just don't, that
Hmm.
that I know how things go in this specific jurisdiction before this specific judge. I know what your case will play out like. Please listen to me. I have an extremely high success rate for clients that listen to me. If they want reunified with their kid, I would say 90% or more higher success rate getting them reunified with their
See, and
child.
that's a rarity though. And I feel like that's probably why a lot of parents maybe give you a hard time because for the most part, I mean, I've been doing my show now for I think a little over 2 years. I've been co-hosting shows with Mr. Davis longer than that. And he's been doing this for almost 40 years in LA area, Orange County. I mean, all over the world he's practiced, but the idea that I've gotten through all of the knowledge is that court appointed attorneys are part of the whole, like everybody in the same sandbox. And
I
why
know
would they
it.
want to fight
So
for
why?
you if, you know what I mean?
It's
And
so
so just,
crazy because
yeah.
with there's literally no incentive. Do these people think that I want to get up every day? That I went to school 7 years. I'm in enormous debt, and I want to get up every day and just suck, just suck. I want to go to court and I want to suck. No,
But that's why you're so rare because really
I
there's not
would.
that many, I feel like, attorneys out there that are like you.
Oh man, I would love to go in and Perry Mason the hell out of a case. There's nothing I love more. I love it. But it's not conducive to my client's goals 90% of the time. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what's going to happen. If
Hmm.
you really, really, you tell me your goal, and I will make it happen to the best of my ability. Um, if your goal is for me to go in and look like a superstar and be a bully and just put on a show and just blast everybody's mistreatment of you, I'll do it. But if
But
your
you don't
goal
believe
is to
that
be
that's what's going to make you
reunified
win your
with your
kids back.
child, right? If your goal is to be reunified with your child, I don't advise that we go that route. We're going to wait until that is our last ditch Hail Mary. We're going to try to handle it a different way, because once you do that, then they have a lot of discretion in the decisions they make day to day when a judge isn't there and a judge is not looking. And they are going to retaliate against you, and they're going to shy away from communicating with you. And a lot of these cases hinge on good and open communication between people. If a worker likes you, your case will be a lot different than if a worker doesn't. That it'll
Well, I
go
feel
a
like you should almost, I know you mentioned to me off camera that this is the first time you've ever done something like this as far
yeah.
as, a show and putting your face, but you know what? Speaking to you and knowing that you're one of those rare court-appointed attorneys out there that are truly fighting for these families and kids to be back reunited. I mean, I feel like you need to be recognized under Dave Weigel's what he calls Wall of Fame,
Oh,
and there's only been a few people that he's been able to add, but I really feel like we should maybe do another show either next week or the following, and I'll have Dave come on with us and let him really be able to hear what you are doing, because again, it's not common. I'm telling you, it's not common to have a
well,
court-appointed attorney that actually is doing what they should be doing and helping these parents, get their children back and do the right thing. Because a lot of the times, I don't even know how these judges or these social workers can go home and go to sleep at night knowing that they're just ripping families apart and just
well,
traumatizing these
I don't know.
children.
I don't know in the abuse and neglect arena that the judges know that. I don't know that these judges are aware that that's what is taking place. They're taking that this department worker, when they make a court summary, when they speak in court, when their attorney represents, what they have to say about the case, they're taking that at face value. They're
They're
believing
not
what,
really looking through the case and making their own call. They're just saying if the social worker says reunification, okay. If they say termination, okay. They're just kind of like being the
that's
last,
the
ring
case.
the
I
bell.
actually am super sad this week specifically because I'm losing a judge that is sincerely one of the best abuse and neglect judges I've
Oh,
ever practiced before, and tomorrow is his very last day. I will
oh,
very last time I'll appear before him, and he's fantastic. He's knowledgeable about abuse and neglect. There's not a necessity to have every bit of evidence presented to him because he knows enough about that area of law and how things work that he sees right through lies. A lot of
mhm.
the time, you don't even have to point it out. He will see and question it himself. I found him to be so knowledgeable and fair in these cases, and that it's not. I can't say that it's rare because I also have had four judges in Raleigh County be the same way. I've been
Well, I
blessed.
think your area then is rare because that area must not have the corruption, because I'm telling you, you get out of that area and get anywhere else. I mean, gosh, it's sad
Well,
to see the corruption
no,
everywhere
it's
else.
corrupt. There, like I said, workers will file petitions against people in retaliation for them just trying to assert their rights. I
Mhm.
honestly feel like I was talking the other day that a potential way of remedying the issues specifically in my state, because like I was trying to tell you, you can't really go in and fight in front of a judge and get what you're wanting in these cases in my state, in my
Mhm.
experience, because a
Mhm.
judge most often sides with the department and with a guardian ad litem.
Mhm.
um, you're not going to get any relief at the Supreme Court level. Our
Yeah.
Supreme Court specifically is extremely harsh on parents. And one of the biggest issues that I have found in my state in this area of law is this notion of the best interests of the child. They call it the Northern Star of the cases. And I imagine that it is very hard to cater legislation to uh, when you're trying to protect children, but you're
Mhm.
also dealing with the constitutional rights of parents. And I
Yeah.
really feel like it's shifted too far on one side because I see a lot of cases where we're allowing teenagers to make decisions that teenagers shouldn't be allowed to make.
Yeah.
Um, I see often in my cases if a child, even little children, if they don't want to visit a parent, nobody makes them.
Yeah.
That I don't know that that's the best policy.
No, I don't believe so either.
Um,
Because that's that place setting. I mean, even if it's a child that can simply just know that they're being, spoiled in a way, making it
yeah,
so that they don't want to go see their parents, or if that person is bad mouth talking their parent, or just whatever.
right.
The
Well, in general sets it up so that the kid
Yeah.
believes that the parent must have done
Yeah.
something because I'm not
But
allowed to
yet
see.
you're not allowed to talk about your case with your own children when you see them. Meaning, how
Right,
can you literally look at your kids in the eyes when they're saying, "We want to come home. When are we going to come home?" And you have to look at them and be like, "I'm not allowed to talk about it."
right, pretty much. Yeah,
I mean, But then they can be told by whoever else that, you know, your parents don't want to see you today. That's why your visit was canceled, or they don't want to get you back, or, you know, this is the famous thing. We have about 5 minutes left, just so you know. But my kids were told on a regular basis, not only by my mother, but by the social worker or their therapist or anybody involved, that one day my kid showed up and had his hand on his hip and was like, Mom, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? And I was like, what's that? You need to leave Dad or else we're not coming home. I said, really? And they kept saying it until this day. They basically have drilled it into their heads that I was never going to get them home unless, you know, I left my husband. And in reality, it's like, what is that teaching any kids if that's what they were going to promote? As far as let's just break up the family even more. You know what I mean? Instead of putting all this funding into more services for the family if they really were suffering in one way or another, like drugs or shelter or whatever, instead of just adding all these more things to their case plan or moving the goalposts when they would finish everything. I mean, it was just a constant like realization of feeling like they're never going to be set up to get their kids back because that's not what they want them to be done, or they want to go to their own therapist because they didn't have a good connection with the court appointed therapist. And then you find out that no, you can't just go to your own therapist. You have to go to one from like their list, and you wonder why.
We don't have that here.
See, everything. I feel like
we don't have that.
You're in a whole other world.
No, we are not required to use any specific medical professional for a parental fitness evaluation. That is not a thing. I could choose any qualified medical professional in this entire state to do a parental fitness examination. The department absolutely would have to pay for it. The court would order that they pay for it. Now, a lot of a medical professional.
What about like drug testing? Are the parents allowed to go to their own, like,
they are,
you know, legit?
They are, but there is a preferred. There is a preferred, and but parents are allowed to go elsewhere.
Wow.
But there is a preferred place. It's usually day report. That we call it day report. It's at, you know, like the probation office. That is the preferred place. And I guess one of the biggest points I wanted to make is here in this state, I want people to know, I'm sorry that you feel, right, that your attorney's not fighting for you. But one of the things that I feel like they don't understand is that it's because when an attorney is counseling you in my state specifically, that to stipulate, to admit something's wrong, there is a huge reason for that in this state. And that reason is our Supreme Court has said that a parent that doesn't admit that something needs improved upon is not entitled to an improvement period. That's case law here, which means you roll the dice and you contest an adjudication and you lose. Then you go straight to disposition, where the judge decides whether or not you get to keep your parental rights, and nothing's taken place judicially procedurally between them. So you're set up for termination. So in our state, your attorney that does care about you and your rights is going to probably counsel you towards stipulation, because they want you to have that improvement period, because without it, you're doomed. What are you going to, you know?
That's crazy that you have that there, though. It's almost like
that's the biggest thing that I see people are very upset with, is they feel like their attorney didn't fight for them. And I'm thinking, you don't understand. Practicing in this area is like beating your head against the wall. Because
like Mr. Davis has said, what happens inside the courtroom is not the same thing. Like justice is not the same thing in the courtroom as justice is outside the courtroom. No. Like you're walking in there thinking they're going to do the right thing. They're going to see that this is all a mistake, that I love my children and I have a house for them. They go to school. They're healthy. There's, you know, but no, it's like you walk in there and it's like, you know, the terminology has been used a lot lately. Like it's a kangaroo court, like your constitutional rights aren't even, you know, mattered in there. I mean, it's just, everything is just so backwards from what you would think it should be if you truly are not abusing your kids or neglecting them. Right. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certain, situations where you do need some sort of CPS to come in. But the sad part is those situations, what normally happens, you see that they don't get involved and they don't come and take these kids because sadly they're considered damaged goods. They know nobody wants the drug babies or the neglected babies because, again, who's going to want to adopt them or take care of them?
That is our biggest thing here, sadly. We're rid with a substance abuse addiction problem in
Mm-hmm.
this area. It's really bad. A lot of drug addicted babies. And it's really sad. And
But still,
those,
where does it say, like in any kind of case law? I mean, I'm just being the devil's advocate per se.
yeah,
I'm not saying that I vote for drugs, but where does it really ever say anywhere legally that you can't still be a parent if you have a drug issue? I mean, as long
well,
as you're trying to take care of it.
the issue in my state specifically is that the statutory definition of abuse and neglect is so broad that they could go in anyone's house and find something that meets that definition. They could come in my house right now and find something that meets that definition.
Yeah.
It's extremely broad in this state. So that's the problem. And our statute says that if you do suffer from substance abuse addiction of any sort, that meets the definition of abuse and neglect, whether or not you truly hit your child or abused your child or neglected your child. The mere fact that you have that addiction constitutes. Yeah.
Because sadly, I know a lot of functioning alcoholic parents that you would never really even know, but again, I mean, to each their own. But anyways, we're pretty much at our time here. And I wanted to thank you for coming on and giving us, that brighter side of, there is still some, good people and good areas out there in this world that are really doing what they should be doing to fight for, these families to not be torn apart and, go through all the challenges that we most hear about. But if you ever want to come on in the future, you have my contact information. And do you want to real quick maybe give out any kind of like email or whatnot for anybody watching that might want to contact you in the future? Maybe your email or
anyone can contact me. I mean, I
or you want them to contact me or you through me, or you want to give out your email?
It's fine. You can look me up on Facebook. I'm on social media.
Okay, there you go.
I just
because you'd be surprised how many people might be in your area actually that are like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I do court appointed work because it's important to me. You don't see a lot of wealthy people in abuse and neglect cases. Okay, it is the forgotten of our society, the impoverished, the minorities. Those are the people that are picked on in these cases, and they have a right to counsel, and I feel like they have a right to good counsel. And I'm bothered by them not having good counsel in these situations. These situations are absolutely unimaginable.
Oh, I know. It's like the worst case scenario for any parent to have their child just come and ripped away from them and feel like they can't do anything to get them back, And then you witness your poor child being in a foreign atmosphere and not knowing when they're going to see you again or if they're ever going to see you again. I mean, it's just, I have nightmares alone knowing what my kids went through back then, but anyways. Okay, well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you. And like I said, if I get in contact with Dave and see about having him come on again, and maybe you'd like to come on as well, because I really feel like you need to go on that wall of fame. You really do. I'm serious. I mean, I don't want to be
I'll ever make.
Hey, well, you definitely deserve to be on that wall of fame compared to all of these other people that are definitely on the wall of shame for a reason. So, all right. Well, anybody that's watching, if you want to be a guest on my show in the future, just go ahead and call that 888 number on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And anybody that comes on my show, I forgot to mention this, but it didn't really apply to our guest, but anybody that is a guest gets a free, I believe, 15-minute consultation with the attorney I do the show under, Mr. Davis. And so if that is something that might entitle you to want to come on the show even more, then please feel free to reach out and we'll get you scheduled. So hopefully I'll be back next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific to share another story with you. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Tanisha.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.